So OpenAI just released Agent Builder, and everyone's saying it's the n8n killer. But is it really better than n8n, or is this just a hype? Well, to find out, I did what any rational person would do. I built the exact same stock market rec research agent that has contacts to your asset portfolio in both Agent Builder and n8n to see which one actually delivers. The point of the agent is to advise user on the impact of the latest stock market news on their portfolio and recommend trade moves. In this video, we're going to put them head to head, practically, and assess them both by ease of use, functionality, and limitations. Along the way, you'll also learn how to put together a RAG agent on both of these automation platforms. And as always, I'll show you everything I built step by step. By the end, you'll know if Agent Builder is the real deal or another shiny new toy. Let's dive right in. So here's a workflow that we're going to build today on n8n. It's a simple stock market portfolio analyst agent. Essentially, you have one agent which receives its input from the chat message, and the LLM that's supporting it is the OpenAI GPT-5 chat model. It's got a simple memory, and then it refers to the Google Sheet portfolio, which contains the portfolio logs of fictitious holdings that, let's say, somebody has. So as you can see here, there are a couple of stocks, AMD, Alphabet, Google, the quantity of the stocks that they purchased, and the open price as well. So it just gives the agent the visibility as to what is your current stock holdings so that it could fetch the most relevant news that's affecting your portfolio. And then, of course, this could be a little bit more sophisticated. So this could actually be a vector database. So for example, if you were to attach it to a Python vector store, if you have a lot of information, you can actually fetch it. But in this case, because we are just doing a quick example, we're trying to keep it simple as a Google Sheet portfolio. And then, of course, the other tool that is being attached to the agent is the Perplexity research tool. So the agent will refer to Perplexity to do a market research before sending all of those results into Gmail. And this is a workflow that I've built before in my other video, so I'll link it up here and down here below. But I'll just quickly run through them in a bit, just to show you how easy it is to put it together. But going into the Agent Builder, what you want to do here is to go to platform.openai.com/agent-builder. So it's not the ChatGPT link that you usually go to. And once you get there, you want to sign up, and you'll be led to a blank canvas workflow. And in this case, as you can see, I already have one test workflow over there, but you just want to hit create. And with Agent Builder, by default, you're starting with two nodes here, which is the start node and my agent node. The start node is by default currently just chat input, so you have to chat with it. And my agent is basically the agent that you would have similar to what you have on n8n, but we'll get into the nuances and the differences, right? So right off the bat, you realize that the trigger node is pretty limiting because you only have the chat input node, so you can't replace this with any other node, at least currently. So it does feel like this is purpose-built for a chatbot. And in fact, if you go to the main page, you'll see that it actually says build a chat agent workflow with custom logic and tools. So currently, it seems like they are focusing mainly on chatbot use cases. Another thing that you'll notice is actually the UI is pretty user-friendly, and it's much easier than perhaps what you'll see on n8n here. You know, the way it comes up with so many different options that a beginner might find overwhelming. But at the same time, it might also reflect how the choices of tools within Agent Builder is currently still pretty limited. But as you can see, the way you would put in your system prompts is pretty similar to what you see here if you were to open up your agent right here. This is how you put in a system prompt. It's just a easier on the eyes UI right here. And the way you would test the workflows on Agent Builder is actually through the preview right here. And some of you may find that this is not accessible. You do need to do an organization verification, which is pretty straightforward. Actually, you just need to provide an ID of yourself and take a picture of yourself, and you're good to go. But just to know, you might actually have to do that before you're able to access the preview right here. So let's open up our agent, and we're going to rename this Stock Analyst Agent. And we're going to say that you are a helpful stock asset portfolio analyst. Your job is to answer questions about stock portfolio holdings, information found in attached vector database titles, portfolio holdings. For the most accurate answer, user may also ask for latest news or update on the stock market and how it affects portfolio. Use the web search tool in that case. So I'm just describing two things, right? One is you need to refer to a certain information that I'm going to upload into a vector database, which will be attached to the agent. And second, it will need to go out into the internet and search for the latest stock market news and then analyze how it impacts the stock market holdings that we have. So in this case, as you can see, there are a couple of things here. You can pick your model, GPT-5 or whatnot. Right now, I'm just going to leave it as GPT-5. And reasoning effort, you can actually choose, low, medium, high. We're going to keep it low for now. And then tools is where it gets really interesting. As you can see, there are a couple of things here, MCP server, file search. web search, and code interpreter. And of course, the very first thing that you notice when you come into the Agent Builder is there are no HTTP request node, which is a really big miss when it comes to just being able to leverage external tools. However, of course, in this case, there is an MCP server which you can connect to, some of these tools that we have here. But as you can see, even with the Gmail tool that we have, it currently only has 2 capabilities right now, and which is to search messages and read recent emails, which is not very useful if you want to send it to your email, if you wanted to send emails on your behalf. So it's pretty limiting at the moment, and I hope OpenAI keeps developing that. Of course, I know they will. Currently, it's just a limited list of apps that are on here. As much as I'm excited about the MCP server functionality, currently feels like it's not going to be as versatile as we need it to be. So in this case, what we're going to do is actually hit the file search tool. So this is where I feel that it is a win for Agent Builder, because you can't actually natively create your own vector database and attach it to your agent, and therefore making it a RAG agent. So for example, as you can see here, you can select a vector database that's already existing, attach it, or if you're not doing that, in this case, I'm going to upload my file. But as you can see, currently the files that can be uploaded is only in PDF format. So you have to be super specific with the format that you're uploading. Currently, they're not taking Excel, CSV, stuff like that. So if you were to want to upload the sheet, you can't upload it as a CSV. You can't link it as your Google Sheet. Well, you can put it in your Google Drive. But what I did is actually I downloaded that as a PDF. And it looks like this. So it does have all the information right here. I'm going to upload that PDF. And there we go, and I'm going to hit attach. So it's as easy as that. As you can see, you don't need to set up any vector database before running this, and it is just natively all within the workflow. So that's really neat. That's extremely helpful, especially for people who are starting off. Sometimes you get stuck in the weeds with trying to set up your vector database on n8n. The way you would do that is maybe you would do a workflow like this, where it's a Google Drive trigger, you upload your files, and then that gets upserted into the Pinecone vector database before you can actually attach that set index into your RAG agent. So going back here, we now have a database of memory, which is the stock holdings portfolio. And then we are now going to add a web search functionality. I'm going to leave this blank because these are optional. You can specify what kind of websites, what kind of region you want it to search into, but I'm just going to leave it blank because I want it to be able to go everywhere to search based on the relevancy of my stock portfolio holdings, right? So now that's attached, I'm going to hit preview, and I'm going to ask a simple, how does the latest stock market news affect my portfolio? Okay, so as you can see, it's reasoning through that. So it says, it knows that it's supposed to dip into the vector database. I don't have access to the tool. All right, it's coming back with an output here. I can give you a quick portfolio relevant read, market today, Monday. So it knows the current time, which is great. So it doesn't even refer to any of the stock that I'm holding right here. So it's actually not getting the right information from the vector database. So the question would be, does it actually have access to the vector DB? Now, okay, maybe it's because I did not name the vector database correctly. Let's name it exactly that and see if it's, what is the price of AMD share that I bought in, and let's ask it that. So again, it doesn't see the data, even though it's already attached to the agent. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to start a new workflow. All right, so this is a new workflow. And in the system prompt, what I'm only going to say is that you're a helpful stock asset portfolio analyst. So your job is to answer questions about stock portfolio holdings, information found in the attached vector database titled portfolio holdings. So I am going to just attach a tool, which is the stock holdings log, right? And I'm going to name this portfolio holdings. All right, so portfolio holdings right here, very straightforward. I'm not asking it to go out to the web at all. So I'm going to ask now, what is the price of AMD shares that I bought in at? So this is just to test if it's able to actually dip into the vector DB and get me the right context or get me the right information, right? So see, he actually knows that I bought AMD at 162.57 US dollars, which is correct from my log. So it can actually go into the vector DB to search for it. But as you saw, when I stack up the web search requirement as well as the reg requirement where it needs to go into the vector DB and fetch the right information, it is actually not doing that very well. Maybe it's not juggling the task very well. I think that's quite a big yellow flag. if it's not able to do those two tasks concurrently or reason through that, I think there's some work to do in there, right? So the other thing that I mentioned earlier was also the MCP tool. As you can see right now, even if it could give me the sufficiently accurate answer and I wanted to send it to my email, it's not able to do that with the MCP feature because it can only search messages and read recent emails through Gmail. Of course, there is an option for you to connect to an MCP server. In this case, what you can do alternatively is to go to n8n and create an MCP server, right? The way you can do that is just to do the MCP server trigger. As you can see here, we're just going to toggle this production URL. You have the URL of the MCP trigger. I'm just going to copy that. But right before I copy that over, I'm going to connect the MCP server to the Gmail tool. And I'm going to let it define the subject, everything, toggle this to text. So now you have an MCP server that is connected to one tool, which is send a message through Gmail, and authentication I've selected as none because we don't need it right now. I just want to do it as a demo. So, okay, cool. I'm going to hit save and I'm going to activate this. And then you can go back to MCP server here and basically paste in MCP URL right there. And for the label, you can say send email server, right? Description to send email. And authentication, we're going to select none, and we're going to just hit connect. And there you go. It actually has the send message in Gmail now because it's connected to the server, and you can add that into the tool. And when you run it, it could actually use the tool to send email. Now, the obvious question is, of course, if I'm already doing all of this, then why am I even using the agent builder? Because I can just build everything on n8n, right? So currently, I see that as quite a big limitation when it comes to working with external tools. But I know that OpenAI is going to continuously develop this and it's going to be really great maybe in the second or third iterations. But now I just want to quickly compare it to how it is if we're building the same exact RAG agent in our n8n environment. The first note that you want to hit here, and I'm going to breeze through this again. I've done this before in the past. So if you want to check that out, I'll link the video in the description below. But here we have the chat message, and the second node we're going to hit here is the AI agent node, and it's going to be connected to the chat trigger. That's fine. And the chat model, we're going to pick OpenAI chat model. We're going to pick right account here, and GPT-5 is a model that I want to work with. Okay, cool. And then memory, I'm just going to give it a simple memory right in here. And as for tools, again, we want to pair up with the Perplexity tool, which is the research tool. Under model, I'm going to just choose Sona Pro, which is a typical model. And I'm going to choose define by AI. I'm going to let everything be defined by the AI agent here. So I want to do add option and go to system message. And here's the system message that I'm going to toggle that to expression, blow it up so you can see. This is the full system message that I put into the agent. It's nothing really sophisticated. It's just your helpful stock market daily research assistant. Your job is to search the latest stock market news using Perplexity and relevant portfolio attaching the Google Sheet. Okay, cool. All right, so I need to now, I forgot to actually append the Google Sheet tool. So there you go, Google Sheet. So I'm going to pick from list stock holdings log, which is, again, this log that I have right here of the stocks that I own. Not that I actually own them, it's just a fictitious one. All right, sheet one, there's only one sheet. Okay, so good. All right, so we've got that set up. And again, we wanted it to be sent into my email. So I'm gonna do a Gmail send message note, pass it onto there. And here in this case, I wanna define it pretty strictly. I wanna send it to my own Gmail, right? And subject, stock market analysis, okay, daily analysis, email type text and message. So I'm just gonna disconnect this for now because I'm doing the trial run to just populate it. So I'm gonna ask, how is the latest stock market news affecting my portfolio? All right, so I'm gonna run that. So you can see it's going into the agent using the OpenAI chat model, going into the sheet as I want it to get context as to the holdings or the stock holdings that I have in my portfolio, and then being able to leverage Perplexity to research the relevant news based on the stock market holdings that I have. So it's finished running that. So let's connect that to the Gmail right here. Also, take a look at the output here. All right, I'm just gonna drag it here first. Okay, and I'm gonna hit execute step so that it actually sends it to my email. So let's check my email, and here's the email that's been sent to me, which is the output from the agent, right? Here's the market news impacting your specific holdings. So it knows that I have all these stocks, which is AMD, Google, Amazon, which is correct, AMD, Google, Amazon, and all the others. So it's actually telling me what sort of impact it has on each of my holdings right here. And it's telling me, the thematic risks, actionable trade ideas, telling me to maybe trim my holdings in some of the tech stocks, add gold because of the treasury yield dip. So it's giving me a very comprehensive analysis and is drawing the right context from the database that I'm attaching to it. But just before we go, I also want to point out a couple of capabilities that Agent Builder doesn't have, which n8n has, which is the fallback chat model. So as you can see with the AI agent, you can actually enable a fallback chat model, which means you can attach another LLM like Anthropic and stuff like that, just in case you're encountering an error calling the OpenAI LLM. If OpenAI goes down, you make sure that you actually have another model like Anthropic, Olama, whatnot to fall back on so that your workflow doesn't break. With the Agent Builder, you're stuck with GPT. So if OpenAI goes down, your workflow goes down. And of course, the biggest thing, n8n is open source. So you can actually self-host that in Docker or any other environment that you want. So basically for security reasons, if you're a business that has sensitive information that you want to host within your own environment of your choosing, you don't have that choice with Agent Builder, right? So everything is hosted by OpenAI. And again, sometimes you want to use Anthropic or other things. You can't, you can only use GPT. So those are the structural limitations that comes with Agent Builder. For everything else, like the HTTP request node and the connection with other external tools, improving the MCP capabilities, as well as introducing other triggers, that can be worked on. As you can see, even with this particular workflow, currently I'm interacting with the agent through my chat message, which is not ideal because ideally I want it to be on schedule, a certain time, certain date, or maybe via Telegram, for example, I can text it and stuff like that. So n8n, you can do that all within the workflow. But for Agent Builder right now, you only have one option, which is the chat trigger. And of course, I don't need to mention that you can't actually visualize the data on execution in terms of what's going into my agent and the next agent the way you would with n8n, which makes the error debugging a lot easier. Agent Builder doesn't currently have the error notification, error debugging capabilities the way n8n does, where you can just connect the workflow to trigger another workflow in case an error happens and the workflow stops. So that's the current limitation, but of course what's good about it is that the UI is, again, super user-friendly. So if you're a beginner, you would love this. It's much easier to learn to use than n8n, I gotta say. And also when it comes to deploying it as a chatbot, there's a chat kit option which comes inbuilt, which means you have ready-to-use front-end chatbot interface that you can easily deploy into your current web page or your current app, right? So here are my final thoughts. Well, Agent Builder is impressive for a first version. The native reg setup and beginner-friendly interface are real wins. But calling it the n8n killer, that's way too premature. For a quick, simple AI agent with documents, Agent Builder is definitely solid. But if you need flexibility, visual workflows, and debugging capabilities, or any kind of advanced automation, n8n still has a lot more to offer. OpenAI is definitely onto something really cool here. Give it a few more iterations, fix the MCP bugs, and add more trigger and tools, then we might have a real conversation about whether it can compete with n8n. But what do you think? Are you excited about Agent Builder or are you sticking with n8n? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you find this helpful, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.